We've been taught that leadership is about managing others, speaking with authority, influencing, persuading, and directing others. But the most powerful leaders that I've ever met in business or in life, they have one thing in common is that they are great leaders of themselves first. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soft Power Project. Today, I'm so excited to share with you what I have learned for the past 10 years as a leadership communication trainer or just as a observer of this topic itself. So as you know, I had been training startup founders, executives for startup companies or even for, large corporations. But because this is what I do, so I often put myself as an observer of the situation. So I look at leaders who seems to have it all, but really observe them through time because that's really when a lot of truth will come out. And what I realized is that in these couple years, I am seeing a lot of very chaotic leadership behaviors that ultimately become so detrimental to the company as a whole that leads to burnout after burnout. And burnout is real. And I started to take a step back and think about what really happened. Because as you know, I built my career previously for the 10 years to share these important leadership methodology. How do you sound more persuasive and influential? And how do you look and sound more authoritative on stage? I built my career from that. But what's happening in the society? Why are these leaders not leading people correctly and causing so many issues for people and burnout? And it's not these external factors that's important. It's all about, can they be good leaders of themselves? So I'm going to use a real example, a real life story of mine to kind of explain what these chaotic leadership behaviors may look like. And I'm sure you can resonate. So a couple of years ago, I joined this company. And the whole reason I joined was because of the leader. He was so passionate about this project, about his company, about his people. And he knew the target audience he wanted to cater to. He knew the branding that would really speaks to the product and the customer. He seems to have such clarity and passion about the project. I sign up immediately. I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm excited. I would love to work with you to build everything and ultimately to fundraise and go public. Of course, that's always the dream of a startup, right? So I joined. And for the first year, I used, what he wanted, his goal as a benchmark. And the team and I, we worked towards that goal. And we made real progress. But about a year and a half in, I started to see something weird happening. I started to witness that he was late for client meetings with important clients, late as in an hour late, missing meetings, completely forgetting meetings. He would set up meetings, he wanted to discuss something and he would completely miss it, saying that he forgot or he just had an overlap. That happened a lot. That almost happened on a weekly basis. And he started to change strategies constantly. Like every month, there seems to be a different goal. And all based on the conversation he had with some potential investor or potential client. So I'm saying the word potential, meaning that they're not actual clients yet, or not actual investors, but they're just someone that he would like to include in this project. And all these changing strategies eventually lead to so much confusion within the company because there's so much miscommunication. What he wanted is different from what we're doing because we're constantly chasing what he wanted and all these changes, right, along the way. And I start to see that he was chasing a lot of these short-term gains eventually leads to long-term loss, but he didn't seem to care. And that troubled a lot of us. And obviously everything starts to crumble. People are even getting sick. People are getting these fevers for like weeks and weeks. I think basically it just resulted from just stress from the company, from the job. And people starts to leave the company. And I left, obviously, because I did not feel respected or valued. And the goal, this passion that I felt so compelled or I felt so aligned to eventually kind of crumbles as well. And what happened is that he didn't even know what he wanted. And he was constantly people pleasing his way, people pleasing his boss, people pleasing these potential investor, potential clients. He's trying to please them in a very short term way that he is changing everything and shifting his values as he go. And that just creates so much pain, to be honest. And it's something I really would like to see less and less of. And unfortunately, I do hear a lot of the similar stories from people, from friends, from other companies as well. So, what does self-leadership actually looks like? Like I said, number one, it's clarity. You got to know what you want, not what you should want. A lot of us were taught and we're so conditioned to be people pleasers that this is a difficult concept to understand. But as a leader, no matter it's for yourself or for your immediate families, your household, or for the company, this is the most important thing. And when you know what you want, not what you should want, you know how to set boundaries, which is number two, the most important thing. Setting boundaries can be the easy thing, but holding boundaries is another. When you're holding your boundaries, you're protecting your time, your energy, and your emotional bandwidth without guilt. But that also means you need to have this emotional courage, which is number three, the most important thing for self-leadership. Be okay to have conflict. Be okay to say no. Be okay to disappoint others. And what happens a lot is that you're disappointing people that you don't even care about, or they don't even know about you. In this case specifically, you're disappointing, and he may be disappointing investors that don't really understand the business, or clients that don't actually appreciate our product. Maybe they want something cheaper. Maybe it's the price thing they're chasing. Maybe they don't want values. So be okay to have the capacity to sit in an uncomfortable situation. And next, which is something so incredibly important as well, is that need to know how to do self-renewal, meaning take a break. And that may sound like, hey, I am taking today's off. I will not be reachable by text or any kind of whatever that you're using apps. I will not be reachable. If you need this, please go to this person. If you need that, please go to that person. And then that's it. Hold the boundaries. Don't answer. There are so many leaders. The leaders that eventually burn out, they would always say this. They will always say this to the team at first. Call me anytime. I'm here for you. Reach me anytime. Let me know if there's any problem. And this leader always, always will micromanage and, would call their teammates no matter what the time is, and always working. They're working around the clock. They could be working 4 a.m. in the morning. They could be working at like 10 p.m. in the office. They don't know how to take a break. So in order to be a good leader for ourselves, take a break. And it's essential to schedule the break before you need it. Last but not least is that a good leader needs to know how to make a decision from groundedness, not from ego, not from insecurity, and not from fear. I cannot even begin to tell you how many stories there are their leaders are making decisions from ego these days. In fact, I think it's sad to say there are way more leaders making decisions from ego than leaders making decisions from groundedness. And it's all coming from the fact that they don't really know what they want. They're constantly chasing for this external validation that may not even be a good fit for you. So they're chasing, they feel insecure, they feel like something is out of their control, so it's out of fear. And yeah, sometimes they just want to look good because what else can they have? They want to look great. It's about face. So they're using their ego to make decisions. So let me really quickly recap: clarity, boundary, emotional courage, self-renewal, and last but not least, make decision from groundedness. And I just wanted to say that this message is particularly important for women. Women, we were taught to be good, to be agreeable, to don't upset anyone ever since we're little girls. So when we go into a career, we become this high performer, amazing boss, right? We take care of everything. We take care of the numbers. We take care of our clients. We take care of our boss. We take care of the performance of the company. We carry everything on our shoulder. But we forget that we haven't really taken care of ourselves. So setting that boundary is something that it's so important to work on. I'm seeing a lot of female leaders these days is that from the outside, they are perfect. They got everything. They have the beautiful family. They have money, financial stability. They have this amazing career. But if they're missing that self-discipline or self-care, self-leadership, something in their life will become draining. Always something. So I really would like anyone listening to this, just take a moment to think about how you're running your life for yourself, for your family, for your career, and make a note. And this is something we really need to think about going forward in 2026. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope today's episode can be useful for you when you're setting your goals or setting your intentions for 2026. And I cannot wait for your feedback as well. So I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.